clear the front cross member, and then the sump's the lowest. Once the sump's high enough, we'll go this way. Slowly does it. So now the engine's out, it's mobile, as is the gearbox. Now I'm not going to touch both the engine and the gearbox much. The gearbox is going to go home in the garage, so give it a once over, clean it up a bit. The engine's a bit bigger of a lump, so that'll stay here. But the idea is that now the engine and the gearbox are both off the rolling chassis, it is relatively light. So now everything is quite easy to get to. Is my chance to do the front axle. Now the swivels have all got paint over them, but that should all come off with a bit of light sanding, nothing too much to score them, otherwise they'll leak. Some of the seals at the front of the axle need replacing. They're past the best, and yeah, they're probably going to leak if I was to use them. So that's my plan really. I can have it up permanent on axle stands and rebuild the front axle. The back axle, with it being simpler, won't take too much work, but the springs on the back have slightly bowed and it's looking like I'm going to have to buy a new set. The fronts, on the other hand, are not too bad. I'm going to take a leaf or two out of the front and then put them back together. Didn't really film it, but the other day I got the hubs off because the plan is to strip the axle and basically create a shopping list of what I want to get. So basically all new seals and everything in. Now, with the current springs that are on the Series 2, kind of past their best, I've been on the lookout for a set of second-hand springs in reasonably good nick. Now, last week I bought these, a full set for pretty cheap. Now they have all the leaves in, they're completely standard, but they're rebushed. I was originally only going to do the rears, swap them out, but with these being in pretty good condition, I plan on swapping the whole lot. Now, before I put the springs on, I want to take a couple of leaves out, just to soften it up a bit. We attempted to knock the bolt through and just try and tap them out, and they were moving, but there was going to be a point where we couldn't tap them anymore. So I'm taking them down to the local farm shop so they can put some heat on the clamps and open it up. Now once they've done that, I can separate the springs entirely, wire brush them down, put them back together, and then paint over the top, and then get them to close the clamps up before the springs go back on. Now, the next job of today, after I've dropped those springs off, is to go and get from my grandparents a set of benches, which are actually just from a kitchen table years and years ago, but in the last probably 30 years or so, they've built quite a few Land Rovers, and well, they're going to build mine. Now, I haven't made a great deal of progress as such in the last couple of weeks. Haven't really touched the Series 2 a great deal. I've been struggling with the swivels and the swivel housing, getting them set up right. I ended up taking them home and building them there, and I've now got them set up to how I want them to be, fully bolted on, ready to go. So it hopefully shouldn't be too long until it's back on its wheels. I can roll it back out and do the back axle. So we're come to the end of, I think, the second part of the Series 2 build, and as a brief overview of what's been done, we took the engine and gearbox out, got it all down to a pretty plain shell. I managed to source a set of springs which I've had rebuilt and painted, which were fortunately rebushed when I bought them. They've gone on front and back. I then set on the front axle, which was a bit of a task. It's taken me quite a while, not had a load of time, and I just want to get it right. So that's fully rebuilt now, which paired up with those new springs is much tighter than it was before and should be really nice. The back axle, I've changed the springs over, and I am going to change a couple of seals in. Going forwards, the engine I think is the next thing to go back in. Properly on its mounts this time, and then I've got to get a clutch, since there was a Series 3 clutch in, since the engine is a 5 bearing 2 1/4 from a Series 3, whereas it's a 2A box, so a Series 3 clutch on, meaning that the two don't work together. So once the engine's back in, go over the gearbox back in, and also during this time I've had the bulkhead welded by a friend, and it's currently being shot blasted to be painted and then to be painted. It's not actually staying pastel green, I'm going to go with marine blue. A lot of the panels need painting anyway, so, and I fancied a bit of a colour change, so there's no better chance than now to paint it all really, and I've got a nice blank canvas to start the build, and hopefully things should start rolling together quite nicely.